Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. I have Arun with me, and this is the last of the lot videos which I've recorded ahead of time. The next one, I'll be back in Chennai, and I'm sure I would have had a brief from Arun on what all happened in the 4 days in my absence. You'll be telling me, you missed out this, you missed out that, we should have spoken about this, we should have spoken about that. And I'm sure the following podcast, me and Arun will cover those things we have missed over the last 4 days. That being said, let's punch on through to today's topic of discussion. And what is it, Arun? What do you have for us?
Sir, usually the person who is heading the company is of two types. One, the promoter will be the head of the company. And secondly, if we take banks like IDFC First Bank, it is run by a professional. So, who has the better advantage while they run the company?
The main question is, if you should be, as an investor, decide to invest in a company run by a founder or run by professional. There are certain advantages when the founder is running the company. For example, look at Apple. Apple is a fantastic case study to show what is the difference between a founder and when it switches to a professional, because the company was bought by a founder from zero to it being a huge global company. Then sadly the founder passed away, and then a professional was taken over, and the professional has been running it since then. And the founding family has nothing to do with this other than being shareholders. Right? They're not interfered with the running of the company. They have no say in it. So that gives you an idea. And if you look at it, just broadly speaking, from a layman's perspective, if you just look at it as an Apple enthusiast, most of you will feel that Apple had its better days during Steve Jobs'
time
than it did with Tim Cook. The advantages of it being run by a founder is, first is vision and passion. The kind of vision the founder has and the passion they have, nobody else can match that. It's an incredible thing to think of an idea in a human mind, and from that idea, creating a framework and finding investors and building a team and growing
giving the product the vision
Correct.
his mind.
So Steve Jobs was able to see 20 steps ahead because he's the founder. He knows the mountain he's climbing. He knows the summit he's looking at. So he knows where to go. So we're all following him. But when he disappeared, there's a fog. Tim Cook comes. Tim Cook is an able person. He knows how to run a company. He's professional and everything is great about him. But he's not a visionary person. A visionary person will take risks. Will take gambles. They don't care if they...
about the investors.
Because they came from zero. So they don't mind losing everything because they know they can rebuild it. If everything is lost, they know they have the confidence they can rebuild it from zero again, because Steve Jobs not only did it once, he was thrown out of Apple and he built Pixar. And he did it twice. So he's done it twice, where he's built companies with his bare hands. From Tim Cook has not done something like that. And
so in taking Steve Jobs, he came from zero, and Tim Cook came directly into the top level. So he hasn't crossed that path.
He's not the guy who founded Apple. Simple as that. Right? And it's true. And there's nothing he can do. But there is a downside to that. If you're investing in a company run by a founder. Right? The downside to that is risk of founder dependence. And that is case in point with Apple. As soon as Steve Jobs left the stage, Apple has been finding it very hard to come out with the next big thing. When Steve Jobs was there, he created the Mac, the candy machine. Then he created the iPod. Then he created the touch iPod. The nano iPod. Then he created the phone. Then he created the iPad. And the way not only he thought of the product, because none of these products are new. He took an idea and he refined it. And that kind of a vision Apple doesn't have now. They've been floundering. Now this Vision Pro which they've launched, they're really trying hard to push it. Maybe it will. I do not know. I can't see the future. I'm not an astrologer. But as of now, where it stands, forking out $3,500 for that seems like a lot of money.
That's beyond the reach of the people.
Steve Jobs didn't do that. When he launched the iPhone, he tied up with AT&T and he gave it for $99.
I still remember the presentation. He said, I am going to give 3 products to you. He said maps, a device to use your
mail,
and a device to contact your favorite ones.
Correct.
So everyone thought that he is going to give 3 products, but all of a sudden he showed a phone. And with this phone you can do everything.
And he made it affordable. He gave a way for the product to be reaching mass. But Vision Pro, the problem is, might be a great product. Might be lovely, but it's not a mass product. such a highly over-engineered product, and it's so expensive. It's not a mass product, and that's why everyone made fun of it. And then everyone thought Meta is going to get hammered with this. It made Zuckerberg look like a hero when he came out in his video on Twitter and Facebook, comparing it and giving an honest review from his perspective. Of course, it's biased towards this company and this product. But if you look at it, the ecosystem what Vision Pro is offering and the ecosystem what Meta has, as a user, who your target audience is, there's not much there for Vision Pro. So that in case in point shows you what happens. But there are advantages to a professionally managed company. The flip of it is, let's look at ITC. ITC is a professionally managed company. The reason why it's so successful is the person who comes to run the company has expertise and experience. They've grown up in a corporate culture. They've grown up the corporate ladder.
And IDFC First Bank is also a good example. It's run by Vaidyanathan now.
Correct. So the person knows how an organization runs. If you're a founder entrepreneur, you really don't know, especially if you're like a college dropout like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. That's a big hole which you have. Yes, you have other great assets, but one big minus is you missed out on all that. You missed out in a formal education. You missed out in working for someone and working in a corporate environment. So you do not know how a corporate environment engine runs. So if you notice that in all founder-driven companies which are like started by a founder, very small and become big, there will be a little bit of a lack of finesse, professionalism in it. It will be a little rough.
We take example of Tesla also.
Correct. So it'll be like Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean. It'll be like on pirate ship. It won't be a smooth machine. It'll get job done. It'll be adventurous. It'll be going and having great adventures and finding gold. But at the same time, when you're part of the ship, you don't feel like you're running in a professionally run ship. You feel like you're all over the place. Like when Elon Musk, when he took over Twitter, what all he did to Twitter. He took one blade and he cut it everywhere and he was doing all kinds of things to it. So that is what a professional will bring. And they have a diverse skill set. A founder will have a certain vision, they have certain expertise, and they're obsessing about that, and they'll stick to that. They don't want to be a general manager. They don't want to learn about human resources. They won't want to know about this, that. But a person who comes up through corporate ladder will have a diverse skill set because they would have dealt with different parts of a company, corporate culture, and that a founder may not have. Okay, and structured governance. That's the most critical thing. When a company becomes bigger and bigger, from 10 people in your company to 100 people to 1,000 to 10,000 people working in a company, it gets more and more difficult to run it. Okay. Like politics it is. You might be the leader, but you need to negotiate with, even in your own party, at each state level you have to negotiate. People might think you're the leader, you can do whatever you want, but it's not true. You have to go down to that level and talk to each guy at his level. And a founder finds it very difficult to do. But a person who's a professional knows how to do that. Right? So these are the main differences between a founder-run company and a professionally run company. But now to invest, you're talking about investing. Well, as an investor, if you have a long runway and you're willing to take some risk, I would suggest you stick with founder-driven companies. Because especially if it's undervalued and it's a small company, chances are it can break through and become big. If you also know what their idea is about and you know what they're selling or what their services are and you understand that, you have a great chance of joining the ride. Imagine being one of the first few investors of Apple.
And Google also.
Yeah. You enjoy the ride from there going all the way. You're along for the ride.
You'll be part of that journey.
Correct. And you're one of the early shareholders. You'll be attending those board meetings, annual general body meetings. Where it'll be very small in the beginning and it'll be like one ragtag team. Being in that room. Imagine being part of the first few board meetings with Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett with Charlie Munger, being one of the first few guys. If you're fortunate and lucky enough, that's something to remember for life. And all things in life is not about making money. Making money is important. But enjoying this human experience is exciting. Being on an adventure, being like Indiana Jones. The reason why you enjoy movies is for that same reason. You want to escape. Yeah, to escape. This is one of those opportunities. Right? So keep that in mind.
Sir, one more doubt here. If we take an example of Tata, Ratan Tata stepped down and he made Chandrasekhar as the chairman of Tata & Sons. So what is the difference it makes when a CEO steps down and a new person takes in charge? He will be guiding them, and what difference that it makes?
It is very hard to take over a company from a founder. Tim Cook was lucky because Steve Jobs left this mortal world. If Steve Jobs was alive and Tim Cook was running Apple and Steve Jobs was doing outside backseat driving, he would have quit. He wouldn't have been here so long.
Okay.
It's very difficult when the founder is still around and he's still alive and you have to run his baby. Okay?
It's like batting for Dhoni in that position.
Correct. And Dhoni is standing there in the third leg and looking at you. I'll tell you what it's more like. It is being the runner. When you get hurt, you get a runner for you. The batsman will get a runner. So Dhoni will hit the ball, then you have to run for Dhoni.
And if Virat Kohli is in the other end, it's become more
correct.
difficult.
So then Dhoni can't do anything. He's helpless watching you run for him. But at the same time, he'll be feel like, oi, run like this. You take one more single. That pressure is always on your back. And if you get out, you're not out. Dhoni is out. So that kind of complicated situation is what happens. So I don't envy people like Chandar, because the simple reason is you have someone like constantly, even if they don't do it, it feels like it's there.
Okay.
Where you have a knife at your throat. It's tough. When you take over, that's what happened to Sirius Mistry. Ratan Tata let him take over. But then he didn't like the way he was doing it. So he grabbed everything back from him and kicked him out.
Okay.
It was ugly. So that's what can happen. If Chandar does something which Ratan Tata doesn't like, he'll tell Chandar to get lost and take everything back.
Okay.
That's the problem. So as an investor, that's not a good place to be. You'd rather be in a place where it's a smooth transfer of power, and allow the next guys allowed to have his vision and take the company wherever it wants to go.
Okay.
So that's my thought on it. Okay. Thanks for watching the podcast, guys. I hope you found it informative and entertaining, and gave you some insight into what a founder-driven company can be like and what a professionally run company can be like. Mind you, most American companies nowadays are professionally run. Very few are founder-run, if you go see, especially the big companies. Even Jeff Bezos has stepped down. Tesla is the only one, I think, big company where the founder is sitting. Google, Alphabet, they've moved out. Microsoft is moved out. So it's interesting times to see more and more professionally run companies. As an investor, it is better for us if it's professionally run, because that means you have an equal seat on the table as the founding family does. If not in terms of size, at least in terms of representation. Anyway, thanks for watching the podcast, guys. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.